Hey class, I'm just going to go over the notes and the homework today for you. Okay, so right here, definition of quadrilateral. We're starting unit 6, and it's all about quadrilaterals. Now, quadrilateral just means a four-sided shape. So the first thing here is we have a little discussion of notation. Let me mark this up. When we name a polygon, basically a shape, we name it by its vertices. Vertices are its corners. And we name the vertices in order. So I could call this one, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 sides here. So we could call this pentagon. And we can call this I, E, F, G, H. Yep, or we could call this F, G, H, I, E. It just doesn't matter which letter you start with, but you have to kind of go around the circle, either left or right. You can't just kind of randomly name the letters or it gets confusing. So we could call this one J, K, L, M, N, and we could call this one A, B, C, D, going around the figure like that. Okay, the first theorem we have for this unit is that the sum of the interior angles of a quadrilateral is 360. Well, what does that mean? Let me go to something over here to draw this out. Let's say we have some four-sided shape like that. We have this angle A, this angle B, this angle C, this angle D. And what it means is A plus B plus C plus D equals 360. Okay, now why is this? We know that the angles in a triangle add up to 180, right? We've been doing a lot with that. So if you have, for example, 70 and 60 and question mark, then we know 70 plus 60 plus question mark equals 180. And we do the math and we find that question mark is 50. Well, we can do the same kind of thing with a four-sided shape, except the angles in a four-sided shape add up to 360. Let me prove why this works. So here we got our four-sided shape. Doesn't matter if it's a rectangle or what kind of shape. I'm going to cut this guy in half. And now I've got angle X, Y, Z, and angle L. Well, that's a weird L. Try that again. Angle L, M, and N. Now we know we've got these two triangles, right? So X plus Y plus Z equals 180. And we know that L plus M plus N equals 180. And this angle and this angle, right, are just Y plus L. So if we add them all together, X plus Y plus Z plus L plus M plus N equals 180 plus 180 equals 360. And this angle, Y and L, is just that one. This one, Z and N, is that angle. So the angles in a four-sided figure add up to 360. Okay, so let's go back into our notes. And right now we're going to talk about the definitions of a bunch of different figures. And these definitions are going to be super useful going forward. Let's mark this up. Okay, so the first definition we have is the definition of a parallelogram. So a parallelogram is a quadrilateral with two sets of parallel sides. Now you see here in this thing, those little arrows right there, those mean that the sides are parallel. So that's the definition of a parallelogram. You've got two sets of parallel sides. Now a rectangle is a quadrilateral with four equal angles. And you know what those angles are, right? If all the angles are equal, right, we'll call this X, 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 X. They're all equal to X. And all together, we know that the angles in a quadrilateral add up to 360. So 4x equals 360, so x is equal to 90. So as a extension of that definition of a rectangle, we can also say a rectangle is a shape with four 90-degree angles. Four equal angles, all 90 degrees. Okay, so if a rectangle is a shape with all equal angles, a rhombus is a shape with all equal sides. So you can kind of think of this as a rhombus is a square that somehow got stepped on it and went kind of squishy, right? It just kind of bent over to the side. But all those sides, these tick marks show that all 4 sides are going to be the same length. Okay, definition of a square. Now a square is a quadrilateral with 4 equal sides, so it's a rhombus, and 4 equal angles, so it's a rectangle. So a square is both a rhombus and a rectangle. It gets the properties of both of them. Last couple of things we're going to talk about is trapezoids and kites. So trapezoid is a quadrilateral with only one pair of parallel sides. An isosceles trapezoid is a trapezoid where the non-parallel sides are congruent. And we'll talk about those a bit more later. Let's go now and talk about the last one, which is a kite, and look at this handy diagram at the bottom. Okay, right here. We've got a definition of a kite. Now, a kite is easy to remember because it actually just looks like a kite, right? Now, these guys are congruent, and these guys are congruent. Okay, finally, we have the big classification of all things quadrilaterals. So, quadrilaterals, these are 4-sided shapes. Now, some of them are parallelograms. And within parallelograms, you have rhombuses and rectangles, and squares are both rhombuses and rectangles and parallelograms. So one way of looking at this is this. If you want to figure out what properties something has, you can kind of look in these different layers of circles. So remember, a parallelogram is a figure with 2 sets of parallel sides. And so here in this parallelogram, we've got, so that means a rhombus and a square and a rectangle also are going to have 2 sets of parallel sides. So let's draw out a rectangle right here. And in a rectangle, this side and this side are going to be parallel to each other. Same thing for a square. We know a square is a rhombus, so all those sides are going to be the same length. Okay, now with those properties, we can go and combine a little bit of algebra with this. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And the homework is just combining a little bit of algebra with these things. So for example, we know that the angles in a quadrilateral add up to 360. So let's say this is 110, this is 90, and this is 90. Then what's that missing angle going to be? Well, we just call this guy x, and we say 110 plus 90 plus 90 plus x equals 360. We can solve this out. So 110 plus 90, that's going to be, that turns into 200. This turns into 290. 290 plus x equals 360. And so x has got to be 70 degrees. Okay, now one thing I want to make sure we understand, because we're going to use this property a lot, is something with parallelograms. So remember, parallelograms are made of 2 sets of parallel sides. And those arrows are just indicating those sides are parallel. Now if I make a line here and a line here, what you notice here is we've got these alternate interior angles going on. So this angle right here and that angle are going to be the same because they're alternate interior. And now by the same reason, if you look at it, this angle here is going to be the same. That angle's the same. And now this angle, let me change colors here to really highlight this. This angle and this angle are going to be the same. So let's just draw that just with a parallelogram. So if I have a parallelogram like this, I would draw that better. If I draw, there you go. If I draw a parallelogram like this, then this angle and this angle are the same, and this angle and that angle are the same. And I bet you can guess what these relationship between those angles are. A and B, these 2 angles are going to add up to 180. So it's just like the work we did with parallel lines. The angles in a parallelogram are either equal to each other or they add up to 180. So how can I use this with kind of an algebra type setup? Well, let's say I'm given, ooh, that's like the worst parallelogram. Let's try this again. What if I have something like this? And this is 2x, and this is x plus 11. Then I know that angle and that angle are going to be equal. So I'm going to say 2x equals x plus 11. And now to solve this, we're going to subtract x from both sides, and then I get x equals 11. Let's plug that in and see if it works. If x is 11, 11 plus 11 is 22. And 2 times 11 is 22, so 22 and 22. And those angles are both 22. Now let's give an example of two angles that are going to add up to 180. So this angle and that angle, you can see they're not the same angles. They're going to add up to 180. If we called this one 2x plus 11, and we called this x plus 9, then the way we set up the equation is this. 2x plus 11 plus x plus 9. These two things add up to 180. And now we just simplify. 2x's and x's is going to be 3x. 11 plus 9 is 20. 3x plus 20 is 180. And then we subtract 20 from both sides. 3x equals 160. Divide by 3, divide by 3. And then x is 160 over 3. Okay, so I think that's everything you need to know. Good luck with the homework. If you have any questions, you can send me an email.